The leash tightens, then snaps taut. One moment the golden retriever is bounding ahead, tail wagging, nose to the ground, intoxicated by the scents of damp earth and wild moss. The next, it's gone. A frantic yelp abruptly cut short. The owner, a young woman named Sarah, stumbles, the suddenly slack leash whipping around her hand, burning. She rushes to the stone parapet, peering down, her heart a drum against her ribs. 60 feet below, where the roaring torrent of the Overtoun burn carves its way through the gorge, she sees it. A small, still golden form, crumpled against the jagged rocks. The sound of the water, once a comforting murmur, now seems to mock her, a relentless, indifferent roar. Tears stream down her face, mixing with the cold Scottish mist. Her beloved companion, just moments ago full of life and joy, now a tragic splash of color against the gray, unforgiving stone. She stands there, trembling, unable to comprehend. There was no warning, no struggle, just an abrupt, determined leap into the void. It's the same story repeated countless times, almost always from the same spot, always dogs, always without apparent cause. From the 1950s through the 1980s, and even into the present day, it keeps happening. No one can explain it. Why do they jump? But to understand how we got here, how a place of such natural beauty became synonymous with inexplicable tragedy, we need to go back. Before the screams, before the desperate leaps, before the chilling silence that follows. Imagine the landscape in the mid-19th century, a wild, untamed corner of West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, where rolling hills met dense forests and the River Clyde snaked its way towards the sea. It was a place of serene isolation, an ideal setting for a grand estate. This was the vision of James White, a wealthy industrialist from Glasgow who had made his fortune in chemicals. He sought to create a personal sanctuary, a testament to his success, and a haven for his family. In 1859, construction began on Overtoun House, a magnificent baronial mansion designed to overlook the breathtaking valley. It was a symbol of ambition, of prosperity, and of a future filled with peace and quiet. The air was crisp, the views expansive, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and the distant murmur of the burn. There were no shadows on this place then, only the promise of a quiet, respectable life, far from the grime and clamor of the city. The bridge, which would later become the focus of such dark attention, was simply a practical necessity, an elegant architectural flourish designed to connect the estate to the public road. It was built as a passage, not a precipice. But no one was prepared for what came next. The Overtoun estate was the brainchild of James White, a prominent figure in Glasgow's burgeoning industrial scene. Born in 1802, White co-founded the chemical firm White in 1820, specializing in chromate production, a key component in dyes and tanning. His ventures brought immense wealth and influence, allowing him to acquire significant landholdings in Dumbarton. In 1859, work commenced on Overtoun House, a grand Victorian mansion designed by the renowned architect James Smith. But the estate required more than just a house, it needed infrastructure. The Overtoun Bridge, often called a folly due to its dramatic scale in a rural setting, was completed in 1895 under the patronage of White's son, John White, the first Baron Overtoun. Spanning the Overtoun burn at a height of 50 feet, approximately 15 meters, above the water, its 3 arches of robust ashlar stone were an impressive feat of late Victorian engineering. It connected the main drive of Overtoun House with the public road, serving as an elegant gateway. This was not merely a functional structure, it was a statement. The bridge's design, with its solid, high parapets, was intended to evoke permanence and grandeur, providing a secluded, elevated crossing that offered picturesque views of the gorge below. For decades, it stood as a proud testament to the White family's legacy, a tranquil passage for estate workers, local villagers, and the occasional visitor, completely unaware of the horrifying reputation it would later acquire. Yet this idyllic scene would slowly, inexplicably begin to unravel, piece by unsettling piece. The first accounts of something amiss at Overtoun Bridge began to surface in the mid-20th century, sometime around the 1950s. It wasn't a sudden deluge, but rather isolated, unsettling incidents that were easily dismissed as tragic accidents. Perhaps a dog, startled by a sudden noise, leaped over the wall. Perhaps a careless owner lost grip of a leash. People often seek rational explanations for unusual events, especially when they defy common sense. One of the earliest documented cases involved a local man whose collie, a breed known for its intelligence and obedience, abruptly bolted from his side while crossing the bridge. Without any apparent provocation, the dog scaled the high parapet and plunged into the gorge. The owner was devastated, and the community offered condolences, attributing it to a freak occurrence. There was no pattern yet, no collective memory of such a thing happening before. It was an anomaly, a one-off tragedy in an otherwise peaceful rural setting. The bridge, at this point, still retained its innocent function as a mere crossing. People continued to walk their dogs there, admiring the views, unaware that a sinister pattern was slowly beginning to etch itself into the very stone of the structure. The incidents were few and far between initially, whispers rather than shouts. But each whisper carried a chilling echo, a tiny crack in the veneer of normalcy that would soon shatter. And soon, the trickle of isolated incidents would become a horrifying, undeniable tide. The isolated incidents slowly gave way to an undeniable pattern. By the 1980s and 90s, the whispers had become alarmed murmurs, then outright warnings. Dog owners in the local villages of Milton and Dumbarton started to actively avoid the Overtoun Bridge. It wasn't just one type of dog, nor was it always old or sick animals. Healthy, energetic dogs of various breeds, collies, retrievers, Labradors, Springer Spaniels, were all falling victim to the same inexplicable urge. The common thread was unsettling. They almost always jumped from the same side of the bridge, between the two final parapets on the right-hand side looking downriver. And they almost always jumped on clear, sunny days, rather than in poor weather. Crucially, many of these dogs were not just slipping or falling. Witnesses consistently described them as climbing onto the parapet with a deliberate, almost joyful leap. They seemed compelled, drawn by an invisible force, as if a command had been issued that only they could hear. The height of the parapet, a solid 4 to 5 feet, meant these were not accidental tumbles for most medium to large-sized dogs. It required effort. This deliberate act of scaling and leaping, often from the exact same stretch of the bridge, began to terrify the local community. Parents warned their children, and dog owners began to share chilling anecdotes, each one adding to the growing sense of dread. Local vets reported a disturbing increase in severe dog injuries and fatalities linked to the bridge, confirming the grim statistics. What was once an occasional tragedy was now a recurring horror, transforming the Overtoun Bridge from a quaint local landmark into a sinister enigma. And then the terror took an even darker, more human turn. Just as the strange deaths of dogs became a chilling local legend, the Overtoun Bridge revealed an even more disturbing facet to its mystery. In October 1994, the bridge became the site of a profound human tragedy that transcended mere animal instinct and brought the chilling atmosphere surrounding it into sharp, horrifying focus. Kevin Moy, a 32-year-old man from Dumbarton, walked onto the bridge with his infant son, a young'un. In a moment of profound delusion, Moy threw his son from the parapet, claiming that the child was the Antichrist. He then attempted to take his own life by jumping from the same spot, but survived, albeit with serious injuries. This horrific event cast a long, dark shadow over the Overtoun Bridge, forever linking it in the public consciousness with unspeakable acts. It shifted the narrative from a mere animal anomaly to something far more sinister, implying a deeper, malevolent influence at play. While Moy's actions were clearly a result of severe mental illness, the location of his desperate act felt chillingly resonant with the ongoing dog suicides. It was as if the bridge itself possessed a dark energy, drawing out despair and encouraging a tragic leap. The incident ignited fervent speculation among locals. Was there a connection? Was the bridge somehow cursed, a thin place where the veil between worlds was permeable, capable of twisting minds and compelling all living creatures to their doom? The sheer coincidence felt too potent to dismiss. Something truly profound and deeply disturbing was happening at Overtoun Bridge, and it didn't add up. Everything pointed one way, to a series of tragic, inexplicable events. The escalating dog deaths, culminating in the horrific human tragedy, screamed of an unknown force. Locals had long spoken of Overtown as a thin place, a term in Celtic folklore for locations where the boundary between this world and the spiritual realm is unusually permeable. Stories of ghosts, ancient spirits, and lingering energies have been part of the regional tapestry for centuries. The Overtown estate itself had a history of being perceived as somewhat haunted, with various accounts of spectral sightings and unexplained phenomena reported over the years, though these were often dismissed as folklore or mere superstition. But then the sheer volume of canine deaths, concentrated in such a specific spot, began to give these old tales a disturbing new weight. The idea that animals, with their heightened senses and primal instincts, might be more susceptible to unseen forces resonated deeply with many. They argued that dogs, being less rational than humans, might be more directly affected by a spiritual presence or an energy vortex, drawn to leap by an impulse beyond their comprehension. This narrative offered a comforting, if terrifying, explanation for the otherwise random and senseless deaths. It gave the community a framework, however supernatural, to process the unfolding horror. It was easier to believe in a ghost than in utter, meaningless chaos. For many, this bridge was not just a stone structure, it was a portal, a gateway to something ancient and malevolent. And the deeper you looked, the more these beliefs began to intertwine with the very fabric of the land itself. What the pivot revealed was a much deeper connection to the land and its ancient, often forgotten history. Long before the Whites built their grand estate, this area of Dumbarton was steeped in pre-Christian beliefs and folklore. The confluence of the River Clyde and its numerous tributaries, carving dramatic gorges and creating unique microclimates, often lent itself to such mystique. Places where water meets rock, especially at significant drops, were often considered sacred or, conversely, cursed in ancient cultures. The Overtoun Burn itself, a tumultuous stream, feeds into the broader river system, its constant rush through the gorge creating a persistent, almost hypnotic sound. Local stories passed down through generations speak of a deity or spirit tied to the waters, sometimes benevolent, sometimes demanding. The very ground on which Overtoun House and its bridge stand was thought to be a nexus of powerful, latent energy. Some researchers have posited that the site sits on geological fault lines, which in turn could lead to localized electromagnetic anomalies. While this is scientific conjecture, it feeds into the older, more mystical interpretations of thin places, locations where natural forces align in unusual ways, making the veil between realities feel fragile. It's not just a bridge, it's a focal point, a specific point where something from the very fabric of the earth might be influencing the living. This isn't just about a few dogs, it's about a centuries-old resonance, a dark heart beating beneath the Scottish soil that draws something out from those who cross it. And for one family, this ancient darkness would become devastatingly personal. The chilling statistics and supernatural theories fade into abstraction when confronted with the raw, personal grief of those who lost a beloved companion. Take the case of Donna Cooper, a woman who lived just a few miles from Overtoun Bridge. In 2010, she took her 3-year-old Springer Spaniel, Bonnie, for a walk. Bonnie was a vibrant, loving dog, full of life and an integral part of Donna's family. As they crossed the Overtoun Bridge, Bonnie, without warning, darted onto the parapet and leaped. Donna's screams echoed through the gorge, a sound she would never forget. The sight of Bonnie's broken body below, a vibrant flash of white and brown against the gray rocks, became an indelible scar on her memory. Donna wasn't just a witness, she was a victim of the bridge's inexplicable pull. The incident left her consumed by guilt and confusion. She questioned everything. Had she been careless? Was Bonnie ill? The vet could find no underlying health issues, no logical explanation for such a sudden, drastic act. The trauma of losing Bonnie in such a brutal, senseless way profoundly affected Donna. She couldn't walk past the bridge without a wave of nausea and sorrow. The laughter and joy Bonnie had brought into her home were replaced by a hollow ache, a silence that amplified the mystery of Overtoun. For Donna and for countless others like her, the Overtoun Bridge isn't a curiosity. It's a monument to inexplicable loss, a place where profound love met a terrifying, incomprehensible end. And in the face of such devastating personal experiences, the lack of clear answers only deepened the wound, leaving many to wonder if uncomfortable truths were being intentionally overlooked. In the face of escalating tragedies, a conspicuous silence often descended from those in positions of authority. For years, there was no official public inquiry, no comprehensive scientific investigation commissioned by local councils or environmental agencies. The Overtoun estate, a private entity, offered no public statements or warnings. It was as if the sheer inexplicability of the events made them inconvenient, something best left unaddressed, lest it invite unwanted scrutiny or, worse, sensationalism. This lack of official acknowledgement only fueled the local legends and theories. Why weren't signs put up sooner? Why was there no concerted effort to understand or mitigate the problem? The mystery deepened, giving rise to suspicions of a deliberate downplaying, perhaps to protect the reputation of the historic estate or to avoid attracting morbid tourism. Locals who tried to raise awareness often felt ignored or dismissed. Vets who reported the high incidence of bridge-related injuries were met with shrugs or suggestions of owner negligence. There was no benefit to anyone in power to admit that a specific, famous bridge was a magnet for animal deaths or that it might possess some malevolent, unexplainable property. The truth, whatever it was, remained hidden beneath layers of quiet denial and a collective discomfort with the unknown. This silence created a vacuum, allowing fear and speculation to fester, empowering the more supernatural explanations when official channels offered nothing. But the persistent nature of the tragedy meant that some dedicated individuals simply refused to let the questions go unanswered. Eventually, the sheer volume of incidents, coupled with growing media attention, forced a more structured investigation. Animal behaviorist Dr. David Sands became one of the most prominent figures to dedicate significant time and resources to solving the Overtoun Bridge mystery. Sands, along with other researchers, approached the problem with a scientific methodology, aiming to identify environmental or biological factors. He meticulously mapped the precise locations of the jumps, noting the exact spots and the types of dogs involved. His findings confirmed the startling consistency. Almost all jumps occurred from a very specific 50-foot stretch of the east side of the bridge, and 70% of the dogs involved were long-nosed breeds like collies, Labradors, and retrievers. This pattern was crucial. If it were random, any part of the bridge would see incidents, and any breed would be equally affected. The specificity pointed towards a localized environmental trigger. Sands conducted experiments, observing dog behavior on the bridge, using scent trails and visual cues to see what might attract or confuse them. His work focused on the sensory world of dogs, recognizing that their perception of reality differs significantly from ours. What might seem innocuous to a human could be overwhelmingly stimulating or disorienting to a dog. This forensic approach, combining animal psychology with an analysis of the physical environment, began to peel back the layers of superstition, inching closer to a verifiable, albeit still unsettling, truth. The investigators were on the cusp of an explanation, but it wouldn't be as simple as a ghost or as comforting as a clear-cut accident. The most widely circulated and often officially adopted explanation to emerge from these investigations was the Mink theory. Proposed by animal behaviorist Dr. David Sands, this theory suggested that the strong scent of mink urine, prevalent in the gorge below, was luring the dogs to their deaths. Mink, an invasive species, are known to inhabit the banks of the Overtoun burn. Their scent, especially that of male mink, is incredibly potent and attractive to dogs, who possess an olfactory sense vastly superior to humans. The theory posits that the high stone parapets of the bridge obscure the ground below, creating a visual illusion. Dogs catching the irresistible scent would interpret it as being on level ground, prompting them to leap over the wall to investigate, unaware of the sheer drop. This theory gained significant traction due to its scientific plausibility and the fact that it offered a concrete, non-supernatural explanation. It even explained why long-nosed breeds were more affected. Their superior sense of smell made them more susceptible to the lure. However, the mink theory, while compelling, doesn't fully hold up under closer scrutiny. Firstly, while mink are present, their scent is not exclusive to this particular stretch of the gorge, nor is it consistently strong enough to explain the sheer number of jumps over decades. Secondly, some witnesses reported dogs jumping in areas where the mink scent would be less concentrated, or where other animal scents would also be present. Furthermore, it fails to fully account for the deliberate nature of the jumps, dogs actively climbing the high walls, which suggests more than just an unwitting tumble. It offers a rationalization, but the nagging questions persisted, hinting at a more complex, perhaps multifaceted truth. The official explanation tried to close the book, but the story was far from over. The most credible explanation for the Overtoun Bridge phenomenon appears to be a chilling confluence of specific environmental factors, rather than a single cause. It's a perfect, tragic storm of natural conditions and canine psychology. Firstly, the unique microclimate of the gorge. The dense foliage and high stone walls create a microenvironment where scents linger and become concentrated, especially at the specific jump zone. The sheer height of the parapets, combined with the dense undergrowth and overhanging branches directly below, creates a visual illusion of flat ground from a dog's perspective. From their vantage point, the sheer drop is completely obscured, appearing as if they are merely stepping onto another patch of grass. Secondly, the presence of specific animal scents. While mink are a strong contender, other small mammals like mice, voles, and even deer are also common in the area. These scents, intensified by the gorge's acoustics and trapped air, could create an irresistible olfactory stimulus, compelling dogs to investigate. Thirdly, and perhaps most crucially, is the specific architectural design of the bridge itself. The solid stone parapets, approximately 5 feet high, mean that a dog's line of sight is completely obstructed. They cannot see the drop. A human can easily peer over, but a dog, especially a medium-sized one, would have to stand on its hind legs or climb, only to find nothing but air on the other side. This combination of an attractive scent, a deceptive visual, and a physical barrier that encourages a leap rather than a cautious peek creates a death trap specifically for dogs. It's a devastating interaction between nature, architecture, and animal instinct. But even this scientific explanation doesn't quite extinguish the unsettling feeling, for the sheer volume of cases still stretches the bounds of statistical probability, leaving an unsettling residue of mystery. The climax, however, delves into a detail that transcends even these meticulous explanations. The single most disturbing fact in the entire Overtoun Bridge story isn't the number of deaths, nor the specific theories, nor even the human tragedy that once unfolded there. It is the chilling, unwavering consistency of Asterisk where the dogs jump from, and how they jump. Over decades, despite changing environmental conditions, different owners, different breeds, and varying times of day, nearly every single documented dog death or injury from the Overtoun Bridge occurs from the exact same side, within a specific 50-foot stretch of the eastern parapet. Furthermore, an overwhelming majority of these incidents take place in clear weather, and many witnesses report that the dogs don't merely fall, but actively climb onto the parapet before launching themselves with a determined, almost intentional leap. This isn't random. This isn't just an accident. It's a repeatable, almost ritualistic, act of self-destruction concentrated at a singular point. The statistics defy natural probability, even for the most compelling scientific theories. Imagine a dartboard and every single dart lands in the same tiny segment, time after time, for 70 years. It suggests a force so localized, so precise, and so consistently compelling that it verges on the uncanny. It points to something far more specific than just a general mink scent or visual illusion that could apply to a wider area. It speaks to a sinister, unseen trigger, a perfectly orchestrated trap set for a specific type of prey in a specific cursed spot. This chilling repetition and almost preternatural consistency is the true heart of the Overtoun Bridge mystery, forever cementing its place as one of the world's most inexplicable and terrifying dark historical enigmas. The Overtoun Bridge stands today, still beautiful, still majestic, yet forever shrouded in the chilling legacy of hundreds of inexplicable deaths. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding, to grapple with phenomena that defy easy categorization. Is it a testament to the sheer power of localized environmental forces acting in a specific, devastating combination? Or does it hint at something deeper, something ancient and unseen, a thin place where the barrier between our world and another truly falters? The truth, perhaps, is a tapestry woven from both science and the lingering shadows of folklore, reminding us that even in our modern, rational world, there are places where the inexplicable persists, where the very fabric of reality seems to fray. The Overtoun Bridge serves as a stark reminder that history is not just about human triumphs and tragedies, but also about the hidden, unsettling corners of our world, where the boundaries of the known are constantly challenged. It's a place where the calm beauty of nature collides with an unseen horror, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and a mystery that continues to haunt. If this kept you up at night, subscribe. We post dark history every week.